This is All of It. I'm Allison Stewart, live from the WNYC studios in Soho. Thank you for sharing part of your day with us. I'm really grateful that you're here today. It's going to be a scorcher, so let's get out of the heat and into the cool movie theater. That's the theme for today. Coming up later in the show, we'll speak with writer-director Jane Schoenbrunn and actor Hannah Einbinder about their new film, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. We'll also hear from Rashida Jones and Will McCormack about their film, The Invite. But first, let's get this started with Late Fame. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. In the film Late Fame, Willem Dafoe plays a New York City poet named Ed Saxberger, who is super famous. Well, at least to one group of about 6 people. Saxberger wrote a book of poetry called Way Past Go. That was a long time ago. Now he's been working at the post office and playing pool with his buddies when his shift is over. One day, an eager young man shows up outside of his apartment building and declares himself a fan. His name is Myers. Myers is played by Edmund Donovan. Let's hear the moment they meet.
Did you see that kid?
What kid?
He's been waiting for you.
Like a prom day.
Can I help you?
You're Ed Saxberger.
What is this about?
My name is Wilson Myers. Myers, everyone calls me.
Okay.
I apologize for showing up like this, but I discovered that you lived here in my neighborhood.
Okay. And?
I read Way Past Go. You are the Ed Saxberger, right? The poet? Of course you are. I recognize you from the back cover.
You read Way Past Go? That's crazy. Where'd you find a copy?
I bought it at Foyle's on Charing Cross Road. And then I read it at a pub in Covent Garden, straight through. It's brilliant. We all think so, my whole group.
Your group?
We're an artistic community of poets and artists, essayists, intellectuals. That sounds pretentious.
Is this some kind of joke? Did Paulie put you up to it?
I'm dead serious. I don't know when you last read the book yourself, but it's as if the poems were written yesterday. They're modern, they're moving, they're scathing, they just slap you across the face with their style and their relevancy. They're timeless.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Saxberger starts spending time with this misfit group of pseudo-intellectuals. They gather at cafes and restaurants. They're all entranced by an actress named Gloria. They praise his work. But as Saxberger spends more time with Myers and Gloria, things start to get a bit more complicated. Was Saxberger a great poet who didn't get his due? Was he good at all? How will he balance his current life with his potential future? The film Late Fame is based on a 19th century novella. It is directed by Kent Jones, who's my guest. Hi, Kent.
Hey, how you doing, Allison?
As well as actors Willem Dafoe. Hi, Willem.
Hello.
And Edmund Williams. Hi, Edmund.
Hey.
Late Fame is in theaters tomorrow. So before y'all met for this film, you both were aware of the novella. You had the novella, yes?
Wow, yeah. I mean, Killer, the producers called me and asked me if I was interested in reading it. I said yes, but before I read the script, I read the novella. And I really liked the script and kind of preferred it for various reasons. And then this guy and I found ourselves on a flight from L.A.
And?
To New York, sitting together.
Separately.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, a New York writer and actor named Danny Sippy, gave me the novella and said, I think this is a movie. You should check it out. And I read it, and I thought, indeed, it's very interesting. And I read it, and I was like thinking about trying to find who had the rights. So little did I know Killer Films had already had a script, had hired Ken, and they were set to go. And then I see him on the plane, and we talk about everything but that.
Everything.
And then a couple days later, he calls me and says, listen, there's this property called Late Fame, and we're going to make a film, and would you like to be on it?
Yeah.
That's an amazing
Crazy.
coincidence.
It was crazy.
Meant to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
Come on, man. Meant to be.
What is anything meant
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be?
yeah, no, it's
Well, if two people have a novella from the 19th century and
Well-
they talk about everything but, and then
Well, the crazy thing is too, when I heard they transposed it to New York present day, my heart sank because Vienna was a huge part of the novel.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's like a Hollywood cheat. I don't know. Let's check this out. But in fact, it's beautiful because it really spoke to some things in the air and some things about New York, and it was very relevant.
Edmund, describe for me in the script written by Sammy Birch how Myers is described.
Oh, that's funny. I have to look back. Old-fashioned is definitely used. I remember. Evocative of a 19th century industrialist.
Well,
Yeah, that's true.
Right? I'm shocked I remembered that. But it's very memorable.
But what's the other adjective that you and I decided on?
Odd.
Odd. Do
Yeah.
you think he's odd?
Yeah, I think that maybe less so in the novella, but if you were to read both or to see the movie and then read the novella, you'd notice that Sammy didn't change all of the language that Myers uses in his dialogue. He has a very old-fashioned way of speaking. And I figured, it just feels odd to me. Not in a negative way. There's just something sort of, he's just eccentric. And
It's
I
just
think-
a descriptive of him.
yeah, I just found that he had to have some sort of oddness to him to sort of justify the way that he spoke. But
Kent, why did you want to direct this movie?
A few reasons. Like, I could really relate to the idea of a bunch of people swooping in and reclaiming the lost artistic hero. It's something that it's an enterprise that I think I've been involved with a couple times, and I remember the vibe around it. I think also that I really have a special relationship with poetry, and the film is actually dedicated to a very close friend of mine, Peter Gizzi, who's a great poet, and so I wanted to do that, and then also exploring New York, and particularly Soho, and the ghost of what Soho was for the memory of those of us who were alive in the late 70s, early 80s, and then seeing what it is now. And it still looks the same from a distance, but boy, was it different. So I was, for all those reasons. Plus, it was really good script.
William, so listeners can kind of think about Saxberger as a person. What was he doing pre-Myers, like the day before? What was his day like?
Sorting mail.
He was fine. He was, dealing with his sister on the telephone. He was making tuna salad sandwiches, going shopping, walking between home and going to the bar to see his friends. He had a pretty simple life. Yeah.
Edmund, what?
Not
It wasn't
content.
sad. He
Yes.
seemed very had a good life.
Yeah.
Like, just enjoyed it.
Yes.
We heard in the clip that your character is so enthralled by Saxberger's writing. What does he see in it?
I think like a freedom, an authenticity, and like a place in a culture. I think probably. I think that seems to be the thing that Myers is void of and is like yearning for so badly, and all these young people are, to be a part of like an authentic scene, that was really about something and had beliefs and
What's the thing that he can't buy?
right,
You can't buy authenticity, right?
right, and is the antithesis of the thing that he's surrounded by, all these young people on cell phones and scrolling their lives away.
Willem, how does Saxberger feel about his poetry?
I think he thinks it was the product of a different life. There are stations in life, and it was connected to a scene. It was connected to him being a young man, having an adventure, living in New York City, making things, going to loft performances, doing readings, that sort of thing. And I think the thing that's important is he probably didn't have an ambition. He probably was just in it, and that's why it was easy to transition to the practical thing that when the scene went away, he said, okay, now I got to get to life. So that's the difference. I think they project this enthusiasm society projects a little bit this thing of fame onto him, when that really, I don't think, was specifically his thing. It was when he was younger. It was where he had a passion for doing something, and he wasn't thinking about tomorrow. He wasn't thinking about a career path, because there was no career path. And that's as difficult anyway for poets, but particularly at that time, in my experience, when I was in New York in the mid-'70s, there were lots of people like that, that they weren't thinking about tomorrow, and they weren't thinking about where this was all leading. They were just doing it. And I think that's what made it very exciting. And it's hard for people today to imagine that, because there's been a real shift about, for example, this enthusiasm society. They're all educated in the stuff of that period, where people that were making things in that period in New York, they weren't trained at it. They were just, it was kind of an amateur aesthetic, doing what they loved to do.
We're talking about the film Late Fame. It's about an obscure New York City poet whose old work is rediscovered by a group of young intellectuals. My guests are actor Willem Dafoe, as well as Edmund Donovan, alongside director Kent Jones. What was the casting process like for the Enthusiasm Society?
It was great putting them together, just thinking about how it would work visually, behaviorally. Edmund was the first person I met, and I was really immediately into it. And then just, it turned out that, when we got together for dinner a few days before we started shooting, it turned out that a bunch of you guys knew each other, right?
Yeah.
That and it just felt like everything would flow with them. But then, of course, Gloria, played by Greta Lee, is the other member of the group. And she's, that's another factor in terms of what Willem's saying. And talking about New York, she's come to New York a little bit too late, And now, as we all know, it's very difficult to come here and just find an apartment and, make your way. And
So, Edmund, the Enthusiasm Society, the scenes are kind of funny with them. They're also a little cringy occasionally. They wear clothing from other times, lots of suspenders going on.
Cape makes its way in.
Yeah, but they do like their phones as well.
They do.
What are Meyer's aspirations for the Enthusiasm Society?
Oh, man, it's so I think in his heart of hearts, if he were honest with himself, this is kind of a spoiler, but I think his aspirations have so much more to do with himself than anyone else,
I'll say.
I think he wants to be, regarded, highly regarded, and in some way in the arts, as a critic, as a writer, as a thinker, as a, and I think he'd kind of take any outcome. But as for the timeline of the movie, I think that the best case scenario would be for them to create this evening of poems and of writing that made a huge splash and, got people talking and got great write-ups. And, that I think is in the short term, the greatest thing he could accomplish with this group of people.
I was trying to think, who would Myers admire now? What writers, what filmmakers? Would it be no one
past, from the past.
Yeah, that's it's such an interesting question, because, I've in talking about this movie, I'm constantly jumping back and forth between my own experiences in my early 20s in New York and his, because there's a lot of overlap. We're very different, but there's a lot of there was a lot of yearning, Like, I really came to New York and I was like, I really want all these things, and I saw this group of people making off-Broadway theater and that's kind of all they did. This was before there were so many people who were both in theater and in TV and film. There were a lot of these people that just seemed to do play after play, and I really wanted to be a part of that group of people. And I really felt far away, and I couldn't get in. That was true for most people coming to New York out of school or not from school. And I think for him, the people he's yearning to be like don't exist anymore, to Willem's point, Like, I don't... He has so much anger in him, really, and resentment in a way that we find later in the movie. But there's like a bitterness about the contemporary scene. you know.
But the anger isn't about the scene. It's about the fact that he's got the vision in his head, and when
Yeah.
something disturbs the vision, then it throws him.
And no one can quite see it
Yeah.
like he can, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
We're talking about the movie Late Fame. We'll have more after a quick break. This is all of it. You're listening to All of It on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. We're talking about the film Late Fame. It's about an obscure New York City poet whose old work is rediscovered by a group of young intellectuals. My guests are actor Willem Dafoe and Edmund Donovan, as well as alongside director Kent Jones. The film opens in theaters tomorrow.
The film opens at Film Forum right around the corner.
Love that.
And
Oh, you
Lincoln
filmed
Center.
a lot right
Yes.
around here.
Right around here. Carmine Street was our hangout. And then in Jersey for all the interiors.
Something that Willem mentioned earlier in the interview I want to get back to, Kent, is that Saxberger is dealing with his sister on the phone. And we learned that his brother's dying. And he kind of wants to stay out of it.
Certainly does.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you handle those little glimpses of what's going on with his family? How did you work them into the script and into the filming to give us a sense of his other side?
That was very much a part of Sammy's script, and it was something that, for junior executives that would say, "Oh, you should get rid of that. It doesn't really advance the story." But it gives you a side of, it gives you something where you have to put the pieces together of the story. And then I think also there's a key line in there when his sister's saying, "Family's the most important thing," and his response is, "Who says?" And that says a lot right there. And I just need to say that the voice of on the other end of the line is Walker White, who's a great actress. I mean, she's Goodfellas, The Irishman, Killers of the Flower Moon. So, but I think it was an interesting thing to deal with and let people put the pieces together.
It's also interesting in the film, there's two other things that were themes to me. Generational differences and also wealth and art and class. What is interesting to you, Willem, about the way that this film, Late Fame, tackles class and art?
Oh, God. Well, they're huge. I agree with you. Well, Ed is a middle-class guy from Jersey that comes to New York City, and then he has this time
From Pennsylvania.
from Pennsylvania, rather. Details.
Yeah.
From somewhere. And he has this period, and then he basically becomes a working-class New Yorker. And he's dealing with these guys that have been going to the finest schools for the most part and are very educated and come from wealth. So they're looking up to him, and they're trying to advance. I don't know. Actually, as I get there, that's why we make movies, because I can't tell you what happens. But putting those things next to each other creates something interesting.
Yeah, because Edwin, we discover that your character is very wealthy. He lives in a gorgeous apartment. What did you like about that apartment?
It was a set. It was
a set?
very much not an apartment. Yeah, it was like what was it? It was
It was an Airbnb.
but it was like a first
Jersey
floor.
City.
Like anyway,
first
the way
floor.
that it reads in the movie is very different than the way it
interesting.
felt on the day. But yeah, I think in the movie it's standing in for this kind of, what do we say, like Sullivan Street, like a West Village, or Greenwich Village.
LaGuardia Place.
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, yeah.
But it's huge and it's very, I mean, it's gigantic, and covered and filled with expensive art and things like that. But yeah, he doesn't foreground that part of himself, which is a bit deceitful.
Why? Why doesn't he foreground that part?
Because he knows the people he admires didn't come from that place.
That's what I couldn't express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You helped each other out there.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think that in that regard, there are three different stories that reflect on each other. There's the story of the guys, and particularly Myers. There's the story of Ed, and then there's the story of Gloria, played by Greta Lee. And she's come too late, and for her, it's the saddest story. I think.
Yeah, she's sort of a muse. She's supposed to be a muse, but she's a little bit older. She's in between your character Myers and Saxberger in terms of her age.
Yeah.
What does this detail tell us about her presence among the group, that she's just a little bit older?
Well, I think that for the group, she's like a guarantor of authenticity. You know what I mean? She's a little bit of a tragic heroine mascot for them, and I think a bunch of them flirt with her and have their dealings with her. But I think, again, it's obliquely telling the story by having her sing "Surabaya Johnny" by Brecht and Weil, because it's a very it's a harsh song, but it's a great song, and she does it in an amazing way. And she's a real artist, and she's committed to it, but she just can't afford to hang around New York.
Willem, aside from the fact that she's beautiful, what does Ed see in Gloria?
A return to a younger self
Yeah.
again, a little romance, a little flirtation, I think, because Ed, it seems like he lives a pretty solitary life and doesn't have much of a sentimental life. So not only the attention of these young men, but also this attention of this woman. I mean, and also he recognizes something in her, her brashness, her love for what she does.
And her
Also,
talent, too.
Yeah, and she injects a little showbiz into the dryness of this poetry group, and that's also something they
that's
appreciate, really.
Yeah.
Because look, when they go to the reading, they need something to put it on its feet, and they really lean on her to kick it up, and she's there for it. So, yeah, she's sort of a link. She's sort of a link, but also she's the person that got to the place where Saxberger got, in a funny way, where he had to decide how he's going to sustain himself, and if he's going to continue to indulge this urge to make things. And he made one choice, and she won't give up on it. And she's sort of tragic because she pushes, she needs the attention. She's like, and you can see it takes quite a toll on her.
I don't want to give too much away, but it does seem that Saxberger can't or won't write anything new for this program they are developing, the Enthusiasm Society is developing.
I think he would if he could.
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you do
bit.
when you get in that situation, when you can't make yourself creatively go forward?
Lean on someone else. Right? No, I mean, really. It's a collaborative thing, this life. Yeah.
What do you do, Kent, when you're like sort of stuck or you just can't get around it and you have to move forward creatively?
You just move forward. That's a great thing.
Barry Gifford, the writer, once that tells one of the great noir writers said, when you get stuck, just have a man come to the door with a gun.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but that will get you to the next step, and then you can erase him.
Yeah. Right.
So you do whatever it does to push it, I guess, until it breaks, and then you pick up the pieces, and then you reconfigure.
Yeah, just because you feel stuck doesn't mean you are stuck. You just move ahead. You just keep going. Right? Right?
What do you
Just
do,
because
Edmund?
you feel it, that doesn't mean you
Even
are.
if it doesn't feel like you
Fuck up.
are ready to, you do it.
Which brings us to the one thing that I like. It's in this movie. It really reminds you not only that flattery it can be a very dangerous thing,
yes.
but also how easily when you're seduced and people pay attention to you, how you can become the thing that they want you to be.
That's right.
And give up on who you are.
It's a big part of the movie.
Yeah, that's a big part of the movie, and it's not in a didactic way, but I mean it's all over the place, and that's not only true for Saxberger; it's true for sort of everybody.
Yeah, sure.
We've been getting so many texts for you, Willem, about. It says Willem was such a big part of the New York art scene back then. I saw so many of your performances. Thank you.
Okay.
And someone
You're
wanted to
welcome.
know, how has it changed given the topic of this movie?
You know, New York has changed. You know, you just go back to, you don't want to get too nostalgic, and I'm sure there's a scene somewhere, but I'm older now. I'm doing other things. I live in other places. I'm still in New York some. But I always go back to, go back to, you know, like Basquiat. I was here when I started seeing the Samo graffiti, and he was a guy doing these brilliant things on the wall. Right. And then it kicked up into something else. So in that period, I think, I mean, I'm talking about visual art, but for a lot of, also for the performing arts, people started to take that and find a way to bring it into the fold. You felt it in theater. A lot of the innovations, I think, of the Wooster Group with dealing with homemade video equipment soon were taken by actually even Broadway with more money, and sometimes they were taking that language and using it. So, you know, I think there's periods of innovation and then periods of digestion and periods of progress and sliding back and all that. I'm not the one to say, because I'm a moving thing. New York is a moving thing. But it was different, and I'm also struck that a lot of people, there's very few people around to tell that story. You know, because enough time has passed, and it was a lot of people living very marginally and between drugs, AIDS, and just things changing. A lot of the people that were really doing it aren't there to tell the story. And a lot of people that do tell the story weren't really there.
What do you want?
I'm
people...
somewhere in between the two, because I was locked in
you
a
were
basement.
kind of there.
I was, you know. But this idea that we're all hanging out at the Mud Club and
that's right.
Our CBGBs, or you know, finally make
Max's
it to
Kansas
Studio
City.
54 or whatever. You know, that wasn't. I was busy trying to make a little theater company, be part of a little theater company that was trying to survive. And I think everybody was like that until they got some success, and then there was some cross-fertilization. That's when I got to know other people in the neighborhood, but not before that.
The name of the movie is Late Fame. I've been speaking with actors Willem Dafoe and Edmund Donovan, as well as director Kent Jones. Thanks for coming by the studio.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Allison.
Sure.